Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Earth Live lesson. I'm Dr. Erica McAlister, and today I'm going to talk about the life's little adventurers. So, obviously it's back to front because I didn't even think about this sort of thing. So when I'm not coming live from my shed in the bottom of the garden, you can find me here. This is the Natural History Museum in London. And a lot of people know it for bones and stones and big dinosaurs and stuff. But I don't work on the big stuff. I work on the interesting stuff. I work on the very small stuff. And you can find me in the collection sorting through lots of the insects. There's about 32 million insects in the building. And insects are some of the most important animals on the planet because they are such good at getting everywhere. They tell us about biodiversity. They help us understand the planet. And one of the things I'm involved in is taxonomy. It's going out and finding these new species, finding what we can. So you often find me traveling and exploring around the world. Right, little adventurer. This is what people think we look like. Yeah, we don't look like that because we know that lots of things are going to bite, stab us and maim us. So we look a little bit more like this. You really don't want to know what it is. But anyway, I caught lots of insects. And I get to go to some of the world's most fascinating places, collecting these amazing creatures. For example, here I am. I'm in Peru. In fact, I'm 5,000 meters up a mountain. I can barely breathe. I don't know how I managed to do this. And I'm there trying to catch feral potatoes. Yes, you say feral potatoes. And I said, well, actually, feral potatoes are very important because we eat potatoes a lot. And we want to know what pollinates them, and we want to know what pests are on them. And potatoes originated from Peru. So we went back there to look at all the different species. And I had to be quite adventurous, climb up and down these places, as well as all other places around the world, trying to find specifically one type of insect. The flies! Yeah, I know most of you probably don't like flies. Most of you probably think that they're not good for much and all they do is hang around on poo. Now, I'm not going to lie, I know some of them do hang around on poo, and it's very important they hang around on poo because if they didn't hang around on poo, what would happen to all that poo? Nothing. So they need to get rid of the poo. We need them to get rid of the poo. But taking that aside, those types of flies are just one of the many hundreds of thousands of different species of these little adventurers that get there. So why are flies such good adventurers? What makes them so special? Why are they so important on the earth? And let me add, and beyond. So here we go. This is a fly. Look at it. Nice little picture. This is all insects, including flies, have got a head. They've got the middle part, a thorax, and they've got the bottom part, the abdomen. Now, this head is amazing. It's where most of their sensory organs are kept. This includes things like their eyes and their mouth parts and their antennae and this fascinating brain and all sorts of different things going on that they use to interact, to see, to smell, to look at the world around them. Their middle part, the thorax, this is the exciting bit where all the mechanisms associated with locomotion are. So on a fly, everyone knows what makes a fly a fly. It's got wings. It's got one pair of wings. That's a little lie. But I'll get to that in a minute. And we have also the legs. 3 pairs of legs as with all insects. And their abdomen, this little bit, contains lots of things associated with, say, digestion and their genitalia. And anyone who knows me know that I would talk about a fly's genitalia because they're quite exciting. Enough for now. So let's go and talk about these lovely little creatures more. So flies are the best adventurers. The whole way the fly is set up, everything about them enables them to do crazy stuff that not many other animals can do. This is a scuba diving fly. Because of the whole exoskeleton, because of the way it's arranged, it's got a really waxy cuticle, which many insects do have, but it is even waxier than most of them, including the other flies. And it's hairy. I mean, not like hairy like me, or hairy like your granddad with loads of hairs everywhere, proper hairy. And these repel the water. So this little fly is able to hit the water and scuba dive down in these really acidic, really alkali, really salty lakes in California. And they're amazing. Everything about this fly, the mothers, it's always the mothers, she dives down to lay her little babies at the bottom of these lakes. Fantastic. And what's even more fun is that the eyes aren't actually covered, so she can see what's happening all around her. So straight away, you've got scuba diving flies. So let's talk about their eyes and more. This is like the whole thing about flies. Look at that. The entire head is made up out of eyes. This is the male and this is the female, and they are having adult time, as I like to call it. And what is amazing, he has to have so many different type facets, these tiny little bits of eyes, because he is desperate to find the lady. She, on the other hand, doesn't care. She's just desperate for food or a larval habitat. And in fact, in this case, these are called, can you guess it, big-eyed flies, because she has specially big eye facets at the front because she has to find tiny little bugs in which to lay her babies in. So she has these brilliantly focused eyes. She manages that. That is kind of a normal looking fly. You get some really weird ones where their eyes are not just for looking, but they're also for flirting. Flies love to flirt. Again, this is why they're so adventurous, because they get up to all sorts of stuff. And they've grown their eyes at the end of these really long stalks. You can find these in some of the most amazing rainforests around the world. And if you're really lucky, you can see them as they emerge out of their pupal case and then blow them up. And then the boys do what boys do. They will headbutt each other, or they will check out who's got the biggest stalks, and the longest male win. Also on the head, you've got the antennae. Now, this is one of the most extraordinary ways they are some of the best adventurers, because they use these to sniff them out. These antennae are noses. This is how they can smell a dead body buried 6 foot under, and then they can crawl down and lay their eggs in it. This is why they're little detectives, because they can find bodies faster than any of us. They can also sniff out truffles. We can use them to hunt out truffles because the males can smell these fungi underground and they cluster around it. And we see these little patches of males and we're like, thank you, truffle fly. Let's go and eat me a truffle. They listen to each other. Males will listen. I know. Males will listen to females across the way and decide which one is their species and which one is ready to become their partner. So these are incredibly important objects. Some of them have crazy cheeks. Look at that. They've got little antlers on their cheek. And again, the boys, it's all about boys showing off. They use those. The mouth parts. Mouth parts. Everyone knows. Here we go. Here's a massive mouth part. That is your mouth part of your housefly. Look at it. It's spongy. It's lapping up. But they don't just lap up. They actually, some of them have very long proboscis here. And this makes them really good as pollinators because they're able to stick it into plants other plants can't get. And what is really interesting, this is a tiny little mosquito. I don't know if you can see it. Tiny little mosquito. Nobody likes mosquitoes. Except for some medics who are looking at the mouth parts of these mosquitoes and are actually trying to figure out how to make very clever needles out of them. Because mosquitoes, and many of you can testify, are able to pierce your skin without you knowing. Again, their little adventurous little habits may be nasty for us, but they could also be beneficial. They've got wings. Well, most of the time they've got wings. And they're able to fly long distances. Hoverflies can migrate across America, they can migrate across Europe, and they can also go very far underground. This little fly is found 1,400 meters underground in the 14th deepest cave system in the world in southern Croatia. It's blind and it's very hairy. It's covered in these wings, big wings, really big wings in comparison, and it flies around in its cave, absolutely blind. Amazing creature. And we've only ever found females. So we think actually she's hermaphrodite. She doesn't need males in her life. She just clones out little babies. Amazing. And the fact she, being a flying animal that lives in a cave, is the largest that's a big, truly cave flying animal. Bats, they come in and out. Not all of them use caves, so they don't count. She's quite amazing. Flies have halters. This is a thing that makes a fly. One pair of wings. And these are the balancing organs. So otherwise flies would look like that the whole time and fall over. They wouldn't be able to walk up on the ceiling and do all sorts of things. And they're amazing. They're able to sense and able to stabilize it. If you ever try to hurt a fly, like try to hit it, which you shouldn't be doing because that's wrong, it is the bits that the halters enable them to whisk backwards and suddenly loop fly and do all of those. Amazing. But you get many flies that don't have eyes, that don't have wings, and don't have halters, just to play with your head, because a lot of these get into the parts that nothing else can get. This is blind. This is amazing claws, and he's got no wings and he's got no halters. This rides around the backs of bees, okay? And it just eats the crap that's around the mouth parts of the bees. Doesn't really do any damage. It's got romp, romp. It's like a little animal that cleans your beard and then goes away. These, though, these are where I have fun. Look at them. Okay, it looks like the least fly you could possibly see, but it's got these tiny little wings. It's basically, that's it. They don't use them to fly, obviously. And these have got no halters, and they climb around on the back of bats. I've got a jar full of them on my table. And I collected these in the Caribbean on the back of bats because we want to find out what's going on. So these little adventurers hang around on the back of bats. Fantastic little creatures. But, I mean, they're quite cool. I'm not going to say they're not, but these are probably quite cooler for animals or flies that don't use their wings to fly, because these are their wings to paddle. Yeah, these live on the sea. So when they say, oh, not many insects in the sea, flies, you'll find they're in the sea. So this is a fantastic male, I know, because it looks better than the female. The female doesn't even bother with any of these structures. And in these, there is really long antennae, and he uses them as sensors. He's feeling what's going around. And these is his first pair of legs. Remember, they have 3 pairs of legs. And instead of using wings to fly and the legs to walk, they use these as paddles or oars. Because this adult male, when he gets to the surface of the sea, when he emerges, he's spent all his teenage years underwater swimming around, emerges to the surface, he has to quickly row around because he has to find a lady as fast as possible. And I mean as fast as possible, 2.5 hours to find a female before he dies. She's got half an hour as an adult, and what she does, which is rather fun, slightly amusing and a little bit naughty, is that she doesn't even bother. She just sticks her genitalia up through the surface of the ocean like that, and he has to row around to find her genitalia so he can mate with her. 2.5 hours, half an hour. Extraordinary creature. So they have some really good feet because they got to hold on to things. We know that. We see them climb out. But this is the foot of a mosquito. Look at those claws. Look at that. And what is inspiring about this is that we are trying to figure out how we can send robots into weird places, how we can get them to cling on to all sorts of things by looking at how flies and other insects stick to objects, how they can climb up surfaces and do that by studying these amazing feet. It really makes humans look quite inadequate. Look at that. It's really depressing. Now, flies, they breathe differently to us. They don't have the lungs that we do, but they have little spiracles. And these spiracles are found on the side of their body. Adults have 2 major ones on their thorax and some through their abdomen. Babies, the larvae, they will have a different arrangement depending on what type of fly they are. But most of them will have anal spiracles. Yes, baby flies breathe out their bums. Now, this may not seem very adventurous. In fact, this may seem very weird. But because they're able to breathe out their bums, they can get into spaces that other animals can't get, because they can also make really long spiracles. They can make a telescope, okay? And so they can get right underneath where there's no oxygen, and they can breathe in these really, really bad environments. There, sewage. They love it. And once more, we have to thank them for loving that. So it's the outside of flies that's amazing. They can do all these things. They can scuba dive, they can cave, they can migrate across the world. But what's this got to do with astronauts? Well, actually, it's the inside of flies that's actually really important as well, because flies are a lot like us. Bananas, right? You wouldn't think bananas are very much like us, but they're 60% like us. We look at the basic blocks, the DNA. We can look at DNA replication, controlling cell cycles, mitosis. The genes are the same. 60% of them are similar to us in a banana. Chickens, again, 60% similar. Yep. In fact, we're looking at their eggshell proteins and our bone development, similar things going on. So we're looking at that. But it is the fly. This one, the fly, which is very useful. Now, chimps are 95% sing, so why don't we do more things with chimps? Well, there's an obvious thing that flies, they're quite small. This isn't. Can you see that? That is. Okay, and these little things are the fruit fly. And these are arguably some of the most important animals on Earth and in space, because they are 60% alike, but they share about 75% of our disease inherited genes. And they also, because they're quite small, they're very easy to keep in lab. They are very similar, as I said, genetically, and they do something which I've alluded to that the flies love doing: flirting and making babies really easily. So we sent these flies up into space in 1947. They didn't quite look like this. They had little labs, tiny little houses, well, little pods. We sent them up there, and they were the first animals to go into space. They were some of the first animals to go around the moon, along with some tortoises, weirdly, and are now living up in the space station. In fact, they sent something like 14 up 2 weeks later. Several hundred came back down. They're very affected. But they made flies up. We've got humans up there anyway. Well, it's because flies can tell us quickly what's happening to our own bodies. We can look at whether the cells are impacted by being up in space so long, and we can look at how their sleep cycles are affected. So this will help us when we travel further away to Mars and beyond. So I want you to about flies. I want you to go out and look at your own little adventurous ones in the garden. They are great fun. There's a lot going on with them, a lot more than you think. And if you have any questions, okay, you've got the Dipterists Forum. Okay, you can have a look at these. I'll find another way of doing this. Bug Life, Amateur Entomological Society, and the Royal Entomological Society in the UK. Brilliant. Or you can just follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. So please go out, go and understand these flies. They're very important, not just for understanding the biodiversity here on our planet, but elsewhere. And don't forget to tune in for more of these life lessons coming up later on today, tomorrow, and many more in the future. Thank you.